Hi, I'm Milena, booktuber, bookstore owner, classics lover, and today I have another episode of the Women's Prize Diaries for you. I've read 3 more books. I've been in a bit of a reading slump, which is why there's over 2 weeks between these videos, which is a long time, I do apologize. Read 2 of the fiction long list and 1 of the non-fiction shortlist. I think we should start with the non-fiction shortlist, but before we do that, can I have your opinion on this pillow? I got this at a local shop this weekend, and after me and my dad went to the shops, we had lunch at my parents' house, and my mother and my brother laughed at me for buying this because apparently I am ridiculous. Can I have your opinion? I find it very cutesy and very artsy. Leave me a comment down below. If I had taken this to lunch with you, would you have laughed at me, or would you have been like, Milena, you have such good taste? Luckily, boy thought it was really cute as well, or he at least did a really good job at pretending. I don't know about you, but hay fever is crazy, and I don't usually end up bothered by hay fever, but my throat is really scratchy because of it. So I have my lovely Virginia Woolf mug with some green tea, so I'll be sipping in between trying to review these books. Raising Hare by Chloe Dalton was one of the non-fiction books I was most excited to read from the entire, I would say, non-fiction long list, because I love memoirs. I love low stakes memoirs where it's just very much about daily life and the little things being beautiful, and that's definitely present in this book. So this is about Chloe Dalton, who works in London, but during the pandemic she moved to a small home, or like an old farm in the countryside. I think she already owned it beforehand. One day she finds a little leveret, which is a baby hare, all alone in a place where it really shouldn't be all alone, because baby leverets are hidden by their mother usually, so not in open fields. Of course, her first instinct is to not pick it up, to just leave it be, and she lets it be for I feel like 24 hours. At no point a mother comes, and eventually she decides to pick it up with a towel, I believe, so that her scent isn't around the hare, and she takes it inside, gives it shelter, and then she starts calling people on what to do. She very soon discovers that hares cannot be domesticated and that they don't usually survive with human contact. I gave this book 4 stars. It definitely didn't really live up to my expectations, but there was one thing I really appreciated about it, and that I was also apprehensive about, because I don't like it when people domesticate wild animals. It feels so wrong to me, and I feel like you can have a very big discussion about that, and I definitely don't have the knowledge to participate in such a discussion, but that's just for me what I know and what I feel like is kind of wrong. When I read the premise of this book, I was a little bit apprehensive of how she would treat the hare, and if she would try to turn the hare into a bunny, which are very different animals, even though we confuse them with each other, but they have a very different nature. Like, rabbits can be domesticated, hares cannot. But she has such an immense respect for the fact that the hare is a wild animal and not her pet. Trying to take care of this hare, it's always her first priority that it stays a wild animal. Her emotional connection to the hare definitely really grows, but never in the way that she tries to turn it into a pet, or that she finds her emotional relationship to the hare more important than their nature. This book definitely explores how the hare staying a wild animal is tightly linked to their survival. There are definitely some surprises later in the book that I think, if this sounds interesting to you, you would want to discover yourself. Notice that Chloe Dalton wanted to make certain things a surprise in the way that she wrote the book, so those are quite fun and beautiful to discover. There's also, of course, because this is a memoir, it's not just about the hare, it's also about Chloe Dalton, who used to prioritize work over everything and used to live in the city, have a very busy life, travel a lot. And during COVID, of course, everything changed. And while I found that interesting, it also felt a little bit like done before. She does acknowledges that slowing down, appreciating wildlife and nature is not something she has done for the first time. Lots of books have been written about that, but I think her appreciation for slowing down, for enjoying small things. I have personally experienced that through chronic illness, like years and years ago. So someone from such a privileged point of view as Chloe Dalton, experiencing that mainly through choice, but also COVID, of course, but also mainly through choice, because she chooses to focus on the hare instead of doing more work-related things, I find a bit underwhelming. So therefore it wasn't really what I expected it to be. I really hoped to see a certain growth and memoir value within Chloe Dalton as an individual as well, and therefore I think the writing was a bit slow for me, but that's I think because I wasn't that interested in that part of the book, and it did take me quite a while to read this. After 10 pages I wanted to put the book away every time, even though thematically I did enjoy this book. I was quite underwhelmed by it. It's fine, and I think if you are a little bit more on the same level as the author, then this book will have more value than it did to me. Still gave it a 4-star because I do think it's very important that people are more aware of the respect you should have for wildlife and not try to domesticate animals, which I think you have a lot of cute videos on YouTube and TikTok that if you think a little bit more about it is not that great for wildlife. It's very cute to see a wild animal like humans, but maybe it's not very good for the animal itself. In boy his words, my next book is my most controversial read of the year, and that is The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley. Oh dear. There were times I wanted to give this a 4-star and there were times I wanted to give this a 1-star. Like 50% of this book I loved, 50% of this book I hated. But first, The Ministry of Time is about a civil servant who gets a job offer at the Ministry of Time with a way better salary than she's used to. She takes the job and then gets informed that she needs to integrate a person from the past in the 21st century. The Ministry of Time has decided to take a few people from the past that were supposed to die anyway in their own timeline to the 21st century to test if time travel is feasible. All of these people who are brought back from the past get a civil servant to help them understand the 21st century and to just help them adjust. Our main character, who I think remains nameless in the book, I cannot think of her name, but she is a woman. She identifies as a woman. And she gets a man called 1847. So he's from that year and all the time travelers have the date they were taken from their time as their name. Wow, that's too complicated. You didn't need to know that. Things start to get complicated very fast. So this book is a sci-fi, it's a romance, it's a bit of a dystopian maybe, and it's literary fiction. And the last part was where my problem with this book was. Because I love the characters, especially 1847, who does Scott Graham. He does have a name. I loved him. He was so well written. A Victorian dreamboat. The female main character was okay, she was interesting, but yeah, she was fine. I mostly really enjoyed the characters from the past, and I think it's such a wonderful experiment to write them in the 21st century and see how they react. I love time travel in books, which is why I thought I would like this, but the writing is... I try to be respectful when the author is still alive, but this writing just sucked. I'm sorry. It felt like it would have been such a great genre fiction if this book had focused on romance sci-fi and had very heavily leaned on the characters and had not gotten into so much sci-fi detail, which I didn't like. But if it was plot and character focused, this would have been such a beautiful emotional story, because I'm a romance reader. I enjoyed the romance, but there just wasn't enough time for it because the author really wanted to create this literary dystopian vibe, and then writing on a sentence level was so bad. Just the metaphors had me like, this is so bad. Yeah, there were things in here that I cannot say on YouTube, but I was like, wait, what? You expect and accept in a literary fiction, but in a kind of book that is just pure, distilled, hardcore literary fiction. And not a book that also has like very vivid characters and very vivid plot. It was just too much in one book and it did not work. If an author adds weirdness and strangeness in a literary way in a book, it is very strange to experience that while you also really know the character. Oh, I don't know how to explain this, but there were just things like there is something very psychologically wrong with this character if this is what she's thinking, and there is no space in this book to understand or explore that, and therefore it's just weird bad writing. Yeah, I feel like this book was like, oh my gosh, I know so many smart and big words. Because again, yes, English is my second language, but I read classic literature and there's never a book that has so many words I don't know that I'm just like, what is happening? Like, of course, I look up words sometimes or just skim through it and understand what the word means based on its context. But this had so many words that I didn't know, and I felt like you didn't need to use a weirdly complicated word to describe this simple thing, because again, I understood what it meant based on the context, and the author just chose to use weird words. If anyone knows Friends, do you remember when Joey wrote a letter for Monica and Chandler and he uses, is it a thesaurus? Oof, I don't know, to make his letter sound smart? Yeah. I wouldn't rant about it if I didn't like the book, because I feel like if it was just a bad book, I would have DNF'd it. Tossed it aside and would have said, not for me, have fun with it. But I really liked the characters and the story had so much potential. There are things that are revealed and happening in the end that I also found smart and that made me want to reread the book. But I cannot go through the writing again. Such a shame. And I felt like, is this just me? According to Instagram, it is not. A lot of people message me saying that they dislike the writing as well. If you love this book and the writing is something you liked, then I'm very happy for you. But yeah, a hard pass for me. Still gave it 3 stars because I'm so conflicted. And then a book I had such low expectations for because a lot of booktubers DNF'd it. I don't understand why. I loved it. I think this is one of the books that was published by a smaller press. This is called Somewhere Else and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4.5 star. This is set during the almost entirety of the 20th century. It's a story of 2 families, a Jewish one and a Scottish one. The book starts out with Rosa, a Jewish Polish girl who's adopted by a Jewish couple in Scotland, and the 2 families we meet become neighbors. So we have this beautiful found family and we have the Scottish family who are a man and wife and 2 sons. All of them form very close but complicated relationships because this is at the start of the 20th century, so there is a lot of anti-Semitism in Scotland as well as in the world in general. A unique thing about this book, is definitely very literary fiction, a unique thing about this book is that it went really fast. This flies through generations, again because it's set during almost the entirety of the 20th century. I can understand maybe how you don't love that, but I love a book that spends a big chunk of time. I love it when we get to know so many different generations. I would say there were a few characters that I felt more attached to than others. Rosa, of course, being one of them because she is like the leading lady of these 2 families. But her daughter as well is a character I felt really attached to. And there are a few people that I feel like are so further down the generations that when we read a chapter from their perspective or that is about them, felt a little bit detached. But overall these characters were wonderful, vivid, unique, complicated, and these 2 homes that are the center of this story felt so real to me. And I really enjoyed that. There's something odd about the writing on a grammatical level. There are no abbreviations or barely any in this book, which I read it physically for the first few chapters and that really bothered me. But then I turned on the audiobook, which is wonderful, and I listened along with the audiobook and it didn't bother me at all anymore. It does make me think about the choices of the author, whether that was something conscious and part of the book and you kind of lose it in audiobook format. Because when you talk, I think you don't really hear the abbreviations, but if you read, it's like super clear. But I very much preferred listening to the audiobook, listening along, and maybe that's why some people DNF'd it, because the grammar was a bit weird. But yeah, if this sounds interesting to you, I would definitely recommend the audiobook. It's a wonderful, very soft Scottish accent who narrates this book and I loved it. Somewhere Else, the title means belonging to a place, but also belonging to its people or to your own people. So it's kind of biological generational family versus adoptive family and how that all ties together in a way. These generations are made in very different and complicated ways, and there are certain chapters that really engage me within that thematically. I'm trying to stay as vague as possible. There are also some themes in here that really tie together with some current day events, although I'm not sure the author meant to do that, but it's very interesting to look at it from that lens. And of course everyone loves found family, which is very much present in this book. One part of me thinks this book is purely plot driven because so many things happen in this book and people dying and being born, and the violence of that is so important in this book. But then again, I think the way that people make choices and experience things is again super important in this book. So maybe it's kind of 50-50. But if you love generational stories, if you love audiobooks, this is one for you. One of my favorite ones from the list. And it didn't make it to the shortlist, which happened a few times. I think some of my favorites of the list in general didn't make it to the shortlist, but that just says how subjective reading can be, and I am fine with that. So yeah, we got a 3-star. People warned me about this one, but I read it anyway. a new favorite, 4.5, and a 4 that I did enjoy, but is maybe not 100% for me. Next up is going to be, I have been listening to Agent Zoe, which is from the shortlist for non-fiction. I said I wasn't interested in this one. It's kind of interesting so far, although the nationalism is kind of scaring me a little bit in this book, but it made it on the shortlist. I don't want what happened last year happening again, because I read everything from shortlist for non-fiction except for the winner, and I'm not letting that happen again. So I'm listening to that one, and I am going to pick up Fundamentally. This is for the Buzzwordathon prompt with the ice. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've also read some things from the Women's Prize, or if you're still doing so like me, let me know what your favorites are so far. I hope that you have a lovely, lovely day or evening. Doei!